And good evening, everybody, and welcome to Kearney Live. I'm Jim Dickerson, along with Stacy Bratcher and Lynn Broughton, and I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce to you the three people in the world who went to work today. You're looking at them. Plus Brian. Welcome, Brian Watts, over in the studio booth there. Good to see you.
Thank you.
How did it feel to be one of the only people working?
Oh, man, I tell you, it was great. And, you know, I did a lot of work, especially this afternoon. Meetings all afternoon this afternoon. It was great.
Somehow I know how you feel about that. Yes. I don't want to take away from the people who were at the restaurants and all that. We know they were working. So
yes, that's right.
Some people did have to work, and a lot of people were off. Did you guys watch the parade at all? I know you did, because you and I were in the same meeting. But
I saw a little bit of it.
What'd you think?
A lot of people down there, and it would look cold.
It did
look cold.
It did look cold.
It did look cold. Speaking of cold, I'm a little confuzzled. I understand that tonight it may rain or snow or freezing rain or a combination of three. Let's go over to Stacy Bratcher, and she's going to tell us what she thinks.
Well, Brian, can you play the KPGZ weather report, please?
No.
Oh, sorry. Well, I'm taking my computer home tonight just in case.
Yeah, because after what happened last time.
Right. I was caught off guard.
Well, nobody knew that was coming, and then all of a sudden and it wasn't that it was like 30 inches of snow or anything like that. It's just it was all slushy. And I will say this, I don't mean to brag, but when I woke up that morning, it was like 60 degrees or something, but I was somewhere else. But
in Arizona.
Maybe. Up here, it didn't snow as much as it did over by KCI where we live. So my wife had to go catch a commute that morning, and she said it was probably the worst driving conditions she'd seen in years. Not because it was so deep, but because it was so slushy, and there were just people everywhere.
My son had to drive from Liberty to Olathe, and he said it was just awful.
Yeah, so I'm sorry I missed that, and wow, I don't know where that came from. I'm going to blame Brian, because he usually yells at me.
What?
So I'm working on my ventriloquism.
There you go.
Good job.
Mouth moves later.
Well, moving on from that, a lot of people are talking about the Chiefs game. I don't know if you saw it, and there were some things that came out of it. We are not going to dwell on the game itself, but when we come back, we're going to take a look at some of the things that happened during the Chiefs game that may make you look at it in a different light. We'll talk about it next. Coming up on Kearney Live.
There's something for everyone at the Kearney Enrichment Council. Spark Studios' after-school programs at the Old Firehouse use STEAM-based activities to help kids learn, create, and find new hobbies and skills. The Enrichment Council supports our senior community with fun activities and necessary services at the Kearney Senior Center. All of Kearney comes out for our festivals, concerts, farmers markets, movies in the park, parades, and much more. The Kearney Enrichment Council, 106 South Jefferson Street in Kearney, 816-635-0566. Improve quality of life, find your place, build a better future in Kearney.
And welcome back to Kearney Live. Of course, we've all heard about, if you're from Kansas City or anywhere around here, we've all heard about the Super Bowl. If you haven't heard about it, I don't know what to tell you. But as you know, the Kansas City Chiefs did win the Super Bowl. But before we got to the Super Bowl, some interesting things happened. So we're going to talk a little bit about them. And this is something that hasn't been covered on ESPN or anything like that. But let's go back. We'll do a little setup for you. Let's go back to the playoff game and one of the final plays of the game that was crucial in helping the Chiefs win that game.
Here's Mahomes rolling out on 3rd and 4. He's going to go for the, yes, he's got the marker, and he's got the out of bounds to stop it. And Osai was hurt as he hit the bench, and a flag's coming in to put him 15 yards closer.
Oh my gosh, the only time he had to use the legs fully, he turned on and he put it on himself, and that's going to put them in position to get...
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, defense, number 58.
And that 15 yards is going to take this all the way into an inside of about 40-yard field goal attempt to go to the Super Bowl.
Oh, and right there at the end,
Gene?
Playing great all day and can't make that decision.
Yeah, guys, on this.
Okay, so that was the Bengals game, and we all remember that and the penalty. We'll talk a little bit about that coming up. For those of you who are not big sports fans, fear not. We are not going to hash out whether or not it was a penalty or it was a penalty, but we do need to talk about it to set it up. In the Super Bowl, we had to go down to the final seconds and another penalty.
Scenario, you'll see James Bradbury, they're going to say he grabs him. He's got his left hand on his back. I don't know. I think you let him play. Obviously, Mahomes thought he saw it. I don't know. I think you let him play, finish this thing out. I don't love that call, Mike.
I mean, I think you got to see the whole thing. It seemed to me at the initial break, he grabbed the back of the jersey and pulled it. If we see that, I think that is a hold.
Okay, so those are the two penalties in question. Then, to get to the part of the story that we want to discuss here today, let's go into the locker room. Let's go back to the Bengals penalty, and let's go into the locker room and listen to what happened there.
Dumb question. Come on. He played his butt off the whole game. That's a different question.
Overall, I mean, what it looked like guys were coming up to you on the sideline as you went through that. I mean, what was that like having guys come up and kind of go and kind of?
Like I said, it was great knowing that I had the support of my teammates, and I just gotta, like Sam was saying, I gotta learn from experience, and I gotta know not to get close to that quarterback when he's close to that sideline. If there's anything that could possibly cause a penalty in a dire situation like that, I gotta do better.
So the interesting thing here is, and we'll talk a little bit more about this as we get into the discussion, but we are coming into a time which is really, I thought was really interesting, because you see a lot of people these days who will blame anybody for anything, and the accepting of responsibility and the mere fact of saying, I messed up, I was wrong, because everybody makes mistakes, even me. I know they don't believe it, but everybody makes mistakes, and sometimes just saying, I was wrong, I messed up, or whatever, does all sorts of things in a good way. So let's take a look now. Let's go fast forward back to the fast backwards, I guess. Forward from the Bengals game, backwards. Let's go to the Super Bowl. This is after the Super Bowl and the holding penalty.
I mean, I pulled the jersey, they called holding. I was hoping they would let it ride, but it wasn't holding.
So I thought that was really just in a big moment like that, the Super Bowl, for him to admit, yeah, I did it. Yeah. And yeah, of course, we would all, if you're a player, would hope that no one would call it, but they did. And so the fact of whether it should have been called or shouldn't have been called, I think, is almost secondary to the fact that these guys, both of them, the Bengals player and the Eagles player, accepted responsibility. Yeah, I did it. Yeah, I was wrong. So I'll start with you, Lynn. Are we looking at a trend that's changing where maybe instead of blaming everybody for everything, we are going to accept responsibility for what we do?
I hope so. I hope so. These two young men really stepped up and took responsibility for something that they did. I would like to say I hope it's a trend that we're going to see more of that because of these two men coming out and doing that, because both of them had phenomenal years, right? And I know is it Bradbury?
I think that's
he is a free agent. So for him to go in to admit, that he did something could cost him millions, right? Because someone's going to see that and maybe say, well, we're not going to risk that money. But I think I would want that kind of character of a player on my team, because I know he's going to take responsible, because I have coached high school football and I used to coach linebackers, and the first thing they did was blame the guy next to him. And I try to teach them, no, take responsibility for what you did because I can see it on film. It's going to make you a better human being in the long run. And I think these guys doing that, and I was impressed with Philadelphia all around because Hurts, they all kept bringing up that play and the head coach, and they said, no, it's many other things. So I think there's some well-coached guys out there, and there's some good young men out there. Hopefully it becomes a trend because I think it's important that kids that are growing up that idolize these guys see that they make mistakes too, and they're willing to own up for that, and it could make them a better athlete and a better person. So.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, Stacy, as it relates, I mean, whether it was a hold or not, or whether it should have been called or not, for this point in the discussion, not important. But,
exactly.
You know, as you look at people in the business world and all that sort of thing, how does that carry forward, and how important that is, like Lynn said, of if everybody would do that and just fess up and say, I messed this up or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it is a trend in the business world that employers aren't looking so much for skill anymore as they are for character. Because you can teach skill, you can't teach character. And I think we're starting to see a little bit of that in the NFL, where coaches are I know we see it in the Major League Baseball. Coaches pursue players with character. And I think we're starting to see that in the NFL, and that is allowing that character to come out on the field with humility and class. And these players are turning into real role models.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think there's a lot of times that, especially in sporting, so back in the 70s and all 80s, a lot of the sports people were considered role models. Then we got kind of in the 90s and the 2000s, and a lot of people got away from that. But looking forward, I think you see a lot. There's a lot of things, not only in sports, but just in everyday processes in business and that sort of thing. If people would just flat out come out and say, I made a mistake, I messed this up, but everybody's in so much fear that they're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
But there's so much time wasted with people trying to, I'm not talking in sports, I'm talking about in business.
Right.
There's so much time wasted where people are trying to figure out what went wrong so they can fix it, where if someone would just say, hey, you know what, I accidentally plug that in over there and I know it's not supposed to, and it blew up the whole circuit or something, then we wouldn't be looking for something that, you know, if someone would just admit, I did it. So
yeah.
Will this continue? Are we learning, or should we just call it anomaly and move on?
I hope so, because I think you gotta look like a coach like Andy Reid, Nurasani, the coach from Philadelphia, that's his name, Nick, however you pronounce his name. But I think it's very interesting that the players that they're looking for, and also in the business world, the people that they're looking for, that they find these guys, because you look at the Cincinnati guy, he was a rookie, had a phenomenal season also. They said he had a phenomenal season. And then this guy standing up next to him, telling these reporters, to me, that's what it's all about.
Right.
That's a brotherhood.
Yes.
And I think we have it here in Cincinnati, and I think Philadelphia has it. And then you see a team like Cincinnati, I think they have it. They have each other's back.
Right.
Did you say we have it here in Cincinnati?
We have it in Cincinnati. Did I say it? We have it here.
Yeah.
I'm an Ohio guy. I'm not a Cincinnati fan, but I am an Ohio guy. Did I say that?
Well, yes, you did.
But anyways, yeah, it's just, I think when you can build that character and get those players all coming together and they're all admitting they're wrong, it's going to make more success on the field. And I think you see that with those teams that are succeeding, because head coach from Philly's only been there 2 years. You start bringing these guys in that are willing to say, hey, I messed up. Man, it's going to make you so much better, because like you just said with the business world, if that guy would step up and say, hey, I plugged it in over here when I know it was supposed to be over here, and we got 50 million people running around trying to figure out how that got plugged in over there, so much quicker.
Right.
Plug it back in and you're back to work.
When I found it interesting during the Super Bowl, I heard a word during that game that I don't recall hearing during other games or even other Super Bowls, and that was the word legacy. And even though they were talking about Patrick Mahomes in regard to legacy, they weren't talking about just his numbers. They were talking about what he also does off of the field and what he does pre-game and the whole package. And they were even interviewing him about, why are you the way you are? What is it your father taught you? Those kind of things. I've never heard interviewers ask questions like that before, or for the sports commentators to talk about anything other than their stats on the field. And so I think it is a huge indicator of a shift.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. I think a lot more you hear players also, they talk about my team. You know, the team stepped up, or offensively we didn't do well, but the defense stepped up, or vice versa, and all that. I think that is a huge swing. If you go back to, I forget the Super Bowl, the one with Sherman, I think that's his name. Remember, and he made some comments that at the time were kind of legendary, but they were all about him. And it was what he did and what happened to him.
Right.
And it didn't go over well, and it seemed like shortly thereafter, especially in the NFL, you started to see a shift. You know, people were like, they're talking about what the team did. And all through the season in the NFL, it seemed like we had a change, and I hope it parlays into other sports.
Yes.
And continues in the NFL for that matter. But players are talking about, you know, you hear more and more of them say, I didn't do good. I messed this up. Mahomes does it a lot in his post-game conference. I didn't play well. Right. And he, quite honestly, he's playing at a level that's far above most mortals, and he still says, I didn't play well. But a lot of the guys did that. So I'm hoping we're seeing kind of a change, not only because, as you said, Stacy, there's a lot of younger kids that look up to these players and then try to emulate what they see.
Absolutely.
Well, and also you have a lot of adults that look up to these people,
That's
right?
true.
These athletes, and you think if they can see them saying those things on the TV, hopefully they can take that, you know, let it sink in, and then maybe take it to the workplace and to make their situations better at work because of the character that they're building in themselves. Because like you said, that is what, you know, people are looking at your Facebook account, your Twitter account.
That's right.
I mean, businesses are looking at that now and seeing the character of the person instead of, hey, can that guy do the job or that girl do the job? So I think it's important because a lot of adults are worshiping these guys too. And so I hope it is a change because I think it could make this a better world that we live in.
Absolutely.
No, I like it. I like it. So we'll see where it goes. But congratulations, Kansas City Chiefs. That was a great season. And, you know, one of the things I've said, I'll say this now, my dream in life is for the Chiefs and the Royals to win
the
championship in the same
That'd
year.
be awesome.
And I'm even willing to fudge a little. I don't mind if it was like the Royals won at the end of last season and then the Chiefs won this, even though it's 2 separate years, it's kind of the same.
Right.
Okay, the Royals didn't make it. I mean, it was close. No, it wasn't. But so now Royals, it is your turn.
I wouldn't know because you can't watch them on TV anymore. So.
I can. I'm one of the few. I'm like one of 6 people that can still see it.
That's a whole nother topic.
And well, I say that. I guess I can't now because didn't Bally go bankrupt?
Oh, did they?
Bally is going bankrupt.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. You heard it here.
Okay.
My understanding is some of us are still supposed to get it, but if you have Bally, well, everybody does. If you're getting, just look it up. It's there's problems, and we'll leave it at that.
All right.
Speaking of problems, Stacey?
Speaking of problems, wow, revelations that our government worked to suppress speech it didn't like should horrify all Americans, regardless of your politics. We'll discuss it next. Stay with us here on Kearney Live.
Migraine headaches, the throbbing in your temples, the pounding in your forehead, extreme sensitivity to light and sound. Your neck feels so tight it could snap off. Oh, the debilitating pain.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark Strathman with Kearney Family Chiropractic Center, and I've been practicing chiropractic health in Kearney for over 22 years. When you come to see me, I identify what's wrong and determine if I can help you. If I can, I create your personalized plan for relief.
When you have pain, you can make an appointment by calling 816-628-6738. or you can visit the office at 301 South Platte Clay Way, Suite B in Kearney. Kearney Family Chiropractic Center. Heal yourself.
Simplify your banking, simplify your life. It's easy with Kearney Trust Company. Kearney Trust goes beyond convenient locations and good customer care to offer banking services that make managing your finances quicker and easier than ever before. Online, bill pay, e-statements, and mobile banking are available to give you a positive banking experience so you can get back to your life and activities. Kearney Trust also provides capital to people and businesses so they can achieve their goals. Whether you know exactly what you want or just need someone to talk to about your dream, you can speak with them and work on that dream. Kearney Trust Company is your partner for success with 2 convenient locations in Kearney at 310 West 92 Highway and 701 Watson Drive in Price Chopper. The phone is 816-628-6666. Kearney Trust Company. Banking you can trust. Member FDIC.
More reliable power means more of what you love. You expect your lights and appliances to turn on at the flip of a switch, and so does Platte Clay Electric Cooperative. That's why Platte Clay is working hard to make power more reliable in the Northland. We exist for one purpose: to empower communities and energize life with safe and reliable energy. To learn more about their plan to reduce outages across the Northland, visit www.pcec.coop/reliability. Platte Clay Electric Cooperative.
Last week, the newly created House Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of Federal Government heard from former Twitter executives about how government agencies coerced them into censoring content on the platform. Because of the Twitter files, we've learned that agencies we trust, like the FBI and the FDA, as well as the White House, blocked discussion of Hunter Biden's laptop, promoted the Russia collusion hoax, and blacklisted a Stanford doctor for warning that COVID lockdowns would harm children. Watch this exchange.
So my first question this morning of Ms. Gaddy, may I ask of you, where did you go to medical school?
I did not go to medical school.
I'm sorry?
I did not go to medical school.
That's what I thought. Why do you think you or anyone else at Twitter had the medical expertise to censor a doctor's expert opinion?
Our policies regarding COVID were designed to protect individuals. We were seeing...
You guys censored Harvard-educated doctors, Stanford-educated doctors, doctors that are educated in the best places in the world, and you silenced those voices. It's ridiculous that we're even having to have this conversation today. It's not just about the laptop. This is about medical advice that expert doctors were trying to give Americans because social media companies like Twitter were silencing their voices. I have another question, my last one for you, Ms. Gaddy. Did the U.S. government ever contact you or anyone at Twitter to pressure Twitter to moderate or censor certain tweets? Yes or no?
We have a program.
Did the U.S. government ever contact you or anyone at Twitter to censor or moderate certain tweets? Yes or no?
We receive legal demands to remove content from the platform from the U.S. government and governments all around the world. Those are published on a third-party website, and anyone can review
Thank
them.
God for Matt Taibbi. Thank God for Elon Musk for allowing to show us in the world that Twitter was basically a subsidiary of the FBI, censoring real medical voices with real expertise that put real Americans' lives in danger because they didn't have that information.
If you aren't angry after hearing that, such actions have serious consequences on individuals and society as a whole. These examples resulted in distorting the democratic process by blocking information voters need to make informed decisions and putting the health of individuals at risk by preventing them from accessing important information to make informed decisions. We'll never know the full impact, but we do know this weaponization of government agencies must be stopped here and now so that it never happens again. Republicans and Democrats should work together to make it happen. I'll get off my soapbox now, but gentlemen, we wouldn't be here today if government is allowed to run away with our ability to communicate and share thoughts and opinions. So how would you feel about that?
You want to go first?
You can go.
So obviously it's a very deep topic, and we only have so many hours
minutes
in the block. But so there are a couple of things. Number one, I think it's very important that people look into anything,
Yes.
especially now, to learn what it is that they're being told. I think, but it goes deeper than that. Number one, we have a lot of people who they'll read a headline to a story but won't read the story.
Right.
And the headline, and this has been true since the first newspaper was ever printed on a stone tablet. The headline is to grab you to get you to read the story, right? Or buy the paper or whatever. On the internet, the headline, how many times, if you're on Facebook, Twitter, whatever, do you see a story and then you read the story and it has nothing to do with what the headline was?
Exactly.
Or it's vastly different than, I saw a story just this morning where I'm not going to use the name, but this person's life has been altered, blah, 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 and it sounded, they had a baby. But they made it sound like it was some catastrophic thing to get you to read it. So you need to read the story so you're educated, because if you get on Facebook or Twitter and then you look at the comments, which I always do for entertainment, you can tell a lot of people never read the story. They just went based off the headline. So educate yourself on the story, that's one. Number two, this Facebook, Twitter, the social platforms are so good and so bad. Number one, if you think back to when we were kids a long time ago, before the days of computers and social media and all that, we had 3 news channels and a newspaper, and what we were told is what it was, because you could go to your encyclopedia that we used to buy at the door-to-door sales dude.
That's right. Yeah.
You could go to that, but
So true.
it isn't recent. It was always back from the past. So our ability to gain information right now is phenomenal compared to what it was. The problem is you have to know that not everything you read is true. And moreover than that, and for those of us who were around, in the 70s and even before, there are stories that came out. We'll go back to Kennedy assassination time. There were stories that came out then that if you go back and read them now were just simply not true. I mean, it's not even close to being true. But so this is nothing new. It's nothing new. The problem is there's more of it. So, and it can be dangerous.
Yes.
Very dangerous. And I agree with you on all your steps, because I think researching and keep researching and learn both sides, right? I think it's okay to watch the news, and it's okay to read certain articles on, on the phone or wherever you're reading your articles, because newspapers aren't really here anymore. But you need to make sure you get both sides of the story and make sure you come to your conclusion when you know all the information. Because I agree with you. I think a lot of people read the headline and then boom, they're done. And then they get heated or they're happy because it's something they want to hear. But to dig deep and see, and then you hear this lady talking, and our government finally stepping up and investigating on what was done and what was said on certain topics that are hot topics right now. It's good. But is it going to stay? Are we going to see an outcome from all that? Because it seems like it happens and then it just drags and keeps dragging. And then we never find out what the outcome was or what the decision was, because we take this oath that they're there for us, right? And then now we hear that they were censoring us on certain topics and making Twitter, Facebook, and that do keywords you couldn't use and you would get censored, and they agreed with it, but now they're coming out saying, okay, now we're for you, we're going to let you know the information, because I think we talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago. Well, now that we have a Senate House that's split, now we're going to kind of see how the government should be run, right? No matter if you're right or left, they're in there for us. And it's not their agenda. It's making sure we're provided the freedoms that we have, that we live in this country. You know, the Constitution's there for a reason.
That's right.
The free speech, free religion, free to bear arms, all that stuff's important. And I think, you know, they took a freedom of speech away, and now they're trying to dig out of that hole that they're in and let people see that they are trying to make steps to improve, because they've got control and they can make this committee and do that. So I do think researching is very important, and making sure you understand, and I do that with everything that I look at, because like you said, sometimes you'll open a story and think, man, it's going to go this way, and it didn't go that way. It's something totally different. So I always encourage people to continue to research and keep researching and understand both sides, and then make what you feel, deciding from what you read.
I'm kind of wondering too. It's weird because the media as a whole. We've talked a little bit about this before, and I'm not sure how we got there, and I'm not sure how we get out of it. But if you have 4 news stations, pick 4, and a story comes out, in theory, the story should be pretty much the same across the board. There'll be like, one station might interview this person and another, but the story itself should be the same.
Right.
If you watch 4 news stations now and pick any story, it's you're thinking, are they covering the same thing?
Right.
And it doesn't matter what the topic is. It is always hugely different. And I don't understand, and I'll let anybody answer who'd like to. So it's not only with media, but everybody has become so divided. You're either over here, or you're over here. We lost all this area in the middle. I don't even know what's in here. But I don't know how we get back. Like you're talking about, the thing is, when you're researching, you're reading a story. Your research a lot of times involves reading another story, which may be totally different than the story you just read. Now, which one's true? It gets really, really messy. Now, the one thing I do, and I don't mean to interrupt you, the one thing I do is, if I can find it, I go to the source document.
Yes.
So I'm looking for, like, we were talking a little bit off the air, there's a story that involves an indictment, and there were all these rumors around what happened. So what I did was, I actually read the actual physical court document. It's online, it's there. Now, that's what I'm going to call as close to the facts as we're ever going to get.
Right.
I don't have to read what someone interpreted because they read that and that sort of thing.
Well, and you go back to back in the day, right? When newspapers were around, they had an editorial section, right? Usually everything was news, then you had the editorial section. I read a book by David Harris Jr., and he was stating that today's news is all editorial.
Right.
It's their opinion of what the story is. It's not no more, let's tell you news, and then you decide if there's a certain, the keyword, agenda being pushed, and that person, how he feels on that agenda or topic, that's what's coming out. So then people hear that, and that's where the division comes in, because we're not getting true news. Everyone is, like you said, there's 4 different stations doing the same topic, but it's 4 different individuals' opinion, that the news station is not holding them accountable, saying this is what you need to talk about, and maybe we'll have an editor. We'll have someone comment their thoughts, like they used to do with, was it Jimmy the Greek and different people.
What was the other guy's name? He was on 60 Minutes at the very end. Andy Rooney.
Yes.
Rooney
would give their opinion on a topic, and okay, you could take that, but what would you say? Well, that's his opinion.
Right.
Now you listen to the news or you read something and you're like, oh, well, they're saying it has to be true.
Do you know who the 3 biggest losers in this whole thing are?
Who?
Anybody?
Us?
The National Enquirer, The Onion.
Correct.
And what is it, BuzzFeed? Is that what it's called? Or
Correct.
the Babylon Bee.
The Babylon.
Those are the three.
Oh, my.
Is the National Enquirer even in business?
I think it's still on newsstands.
Is it?
I do, I think.
Well, they did do a story. They did a story on the Babylon Bee, which is a satirical website if you've never seen it. Honestly, it used to be funny as all get out. And now the thing that's funny is, and they've actually shown this, stories that they wrote as a joke have become true. They're not even, that makes it not funny anymore.
Oh, man.
So I imagine being the Babylon Bee, if someone came up to you and goes, okay, well, in a few years this isn't going to work because that's going to be true, and you'd be like, no way.
Yeah.
But it
Well,
is.
but that is a good point, that it seems like now it's the comedians are the only ones telling the truth.
Truth, right.
Right. And they're... So anyway, what you got, Lynn?
Well, we're going to kind of go back to the NFL. Is prayer and faith acceptable in the NFL, or does it take a crisis on live TV to make it acceptable? We'll talk about that next on Kearney Live.
Simplify your banking, simplify your life. It's easy with Kearney Trust Company. Kearney Trust goes beyond convenient locations and good customer care to offer banking services that make managing your finances quicker and easier than ever before. Online, bill pay, e-statements, and mobile banking are available to give you a positive banking experience so you can get back to your life and activities. Kearney Trust also provides capital to people and businesses so they can achieve their goals. Whether you know exactly what you want or just need someone to talk to about your dream, you can speak with them and work on that dream. Kearney Trust Company is your partner for success with 2 convenient locations in Kearney at 310 West 92 Highway and 701 Watson Drive in Price Chopper. The phone is 816-628-6666. Kearney Trust Company. Banking you can trust. Member FDIC.
You may have noticed your shoulder hurting, or maybe a kink in your neck. The culprit may be looking right at you. Your phone. Think about how you use it. Does that pain feel familiar to you?
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark Strathman with Kearney Family Chiropractic Center, and I've been practicing chiropractic health in Kearney for over 22 years. When you come to see me, I identify what's wrong and determine if I can help you. If I can, I create your personalized plan for relief.
When you have pain, you can make an appointment by calling 816-628-6738, or you can visit the office at 301 South Platte Clay Way, Suite B in Kearney. Kearney Family Chiropractic Center. Heal yourself.
Electric cooperatives are different. We have a sense of pride in our local community and support the people who live here. That's why Platte Clay Electric Cooperative supports local schools, takes an active role in economic development, and works hard to keep costs down for its members. We exist for one purpose, to empower communities and energize life with safe and reliable energy. To learn more about how Platte Clay Electric Cooperative is working to achieve that mission, visit www.pcec.coop. Platte Clay Electric Cooperative.
Damar Hamlin, Jalen Hurts, and Patrick Mahomes, those might be names that you know, have brought faith back into the NFL. Hamlin, which you heard his story, the Buffalo Bills safety brought prayer and faith back to the NFL when he survived the cardiac arrest incident that happened on live TV that Monday night when that happened. Pray for Damar was everywhere, and everyone was praying for this young man. Then also, during the Super Bowl week, I don't know if you guys were watching and heard, Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes talked about how Christianity impacted their success, not race. Let's watch this clip.
Football gave me everything, and I think even through the midst of absolute tragedy last night, I think you saw some of the beauty of football as well, that it's brought us all here together. I've heard the Buffalo Bills organization say that we believe in prayer. And maybe this is not the right thing to do, but it's just on my heart that I want to pray for Damar Hamlin right now. I'm going to do it out loud. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to bow my head, and I'm just going to pray for him. We just want to pray. Truly come to you and pray for strength for Damar, for healing for Damar, for comfort for Damar.
I'll just reiterate how secondary football is in all of this. We are thinking and praying, as you've seen here, for Damar Hamlin and his family, and truly hoping for some better news.
You know, I feel like you go through things and you kind of have moments where you have to lean on your faith. And that's something that I've kind of come to in college. A scripture that I lean on heavily is John 13:7. You may not know now, but later you'll understand. And I feel like along with that faith, it's been a lot of work, you know. And I embrace it just by being me, me being who God called me to be. I truly try and focus on the things that I can control, not the things that I can't. So control the things you can, put the work in, never lose faith in what you believe in. And
I mean, my Christian faith plays a role in everything that I do. I mean, I always ask God to lead me in the right direction and let me be who I am for his name. So it has a role in everything that I do, and obviously it will be on the huge stage in the Super Bowl that he's given me, and I want to make sure I'm glorifying him while I do it. I know that I'm blessed to be in this position, and I know that I'm here for a reason and to glorify him. And so it means everything, not only about my football career, but all the decisions that I make. And so to have a faith backing, I know why I'm here, and it's not about winning football games, it's about glorifying him. And I think that gives me I have no pressure when I step on that football field, 'cause I know why I'm here.
You know, I know faith and prayer has always been with NFL teams. I know they have chaplains, and I know I've heard of shower room Bible studies or Bible studies they have. I kind of have a couple questions for you. But did the crisis on Monday night make this more acceptable and easier for players to talk openly about their faith? And also, let's think a couple years ago, or I don't even know, five years ago maybe. You remember when Tim Tebow openly prayed and did the Tebow kneel? And when he did that on the field, and he was mocked for that.
Yep.
So what do you think? What has changed to cause this to be more acceptable?
I believe that because of what Tim Tebow did, even though he was mocked, that was impressive in people's minds. They saw him doing it. He did it repeatedly and consistently. And even though they may not have liked it, or they mocked him or made fun of him or whatever, it was a seed planted. Now, I don't know that that what happened with Damar Hamlin made that more acceptable, but what I think it did was opened a door for the media and the commentators to do and say what they truly believe and was on their hearts. It made it okay in that moment, and then they were able to carry it through and show us what the players are really doing and saying, whereas before they were very closed off and wouldn't ask those kinds of questions or want to hear those kinds of answers. So I don't think it was Damar necessarily, but I think that situation allowed the press and the media to open up.
Because it was something that the whole United States was on, right? I mean, that's all you saw. Shirts, you saw the signs.
We were all united
everywhere.
in that one.
And then you saw teams before the games. And what was interesting, the TVs were showing it. The two teams coming to the 50-yard line and praying before, like Jacksonville and Tennessee came before the playoff game and were praying together before, they played. And it kind of gives me goosebumps because I'm a man of faith, and I enjoy seeing this, and I think this plays into our first topic.
Absolutely.
When guys are owning up to, the mistakes that they make, Christianity does kind of play a part of that somewhat because that's part of it. You got to admit, you've done something wrong, right? To see the fruits of the blessings that will be there for you when you get those blessings.
Right. And not that they won't make mistakes. you all were teasing me during our meeting earlier today that I was being very judgmental of the parade, and I was, because, you know, I see these players on the field praying, saying the things that we just listened to in their video, but then in the parade, I know from 2 years ago, they were anything but Christian during the parade. And so I was very skeptical, but as we were watching the parade, I was very pleased to see that they, although, you know, there was obviously still some alcohol involved, it wasn't near to the extent of 2 years ago. There was no the law breaking. They seemed to be a little bit more classy and keeping things together. And I know that I also am a person of faith, and I know that it takes time to grow in that faith, and we're seeing that.
Well, let me ask you this. The Tim Tebow incident, you never saw, he was a good guy, right? Like you said, everything you saw him do was he was working in orphanages, he was going to the Philippines, he was always on the mission field. So, okay, like you just said, you see these players praying and stuff on the field, but then you see them at a parade after they win, right? It takes process, it's a growth process, right? But is that why you think Tebow was so ridiculed? Because he walked the walk.
Perfect.
Right. I don't know. Just
maybe.
Well, I think there's a couple of things here. Number one, the Tim Tebow thing, I had to look it up. This is really sad. It was 2010 and 12.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, so it's like
a while ago.
Almost 10 years ago. That said, the interesting thing is that he was ridiculed and shunned for exactly what happened on the night of Damar Hamlin. More and more players you see, you know, you hit a home run, you point up at the sky. Clearly, you're not pointing at aircraft or balloons. Right. But you see a lot. So the question becomes, and I've heard it asked a lot: are they doing it because they truly feel that way, or because it's the trend of the time?
The movement.
That's the big question. I think going back to one of your other questions, the NFL after the Tebow thing. Went through a really rough time through 15, 16, right in that area. My years may be a little skewed. They had players that were in a world of hurt, all sorts of arrests, charges and everything, and it made the NFL really look bad. Major League Baseball went through the same thing. The NFL then started a program where players, certain players were encouraged heavily. They don't make them, but they're encouraged heavily to be involved in something in the community. So now you have the Walter Payton Award, which is basically formulated. The thing about Walter Payton was, and a lot of those guys, is way back then, they did it on their own accord. Like just out of the blue. They got no PR out of it or anything else. Now you see and hear about it all the time. That said, it's a trend I like in the NFL. I think it brings them down to earth, to the people that, you know, don't have, I mean, let's face it, they are being paid millions and millions of dollars to play a game. Everybody, there isn't anybody who would, you pay me millions of dollars to play tic-tac-toe, I'll sit here all day and do it. Have a lot of fun. But I think it's a good trend to see in sports. I hope it continues. I hope they're doing it, like you guys are saying, for the right reasons and not just because it's the ongoing trend. But, you know, hopefully that is, to your point, helping lead people in the right direction. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think for 1 minute that we're going to be so righteous we're going to pull all the officials off the field and then we're going to call our own penalties. Sorry.
No, that's not going to happen.
Let's bring that on back. That's not going to happen.
No.
However, seeing a little humility is good. Seeing a little respect for others. I made a mistake and that sort of thing, I think goes a long way. And I don't know. It could be it's all interconnected.
Well, when I do some research, I mean, you pick Hurts and Mahomes because everyone knows them, but when you really look at these two teams that were in the Super Bowl, there was a lot of this. I mean, Harrison Buckner, Spagnuolo. I mean, there was both sides. I was like, wow, look at all the players that are professing and coming out and talking about this, because those questions may be asked. Because Hamlin was there, right? He was at the Super Bowl. And I don't know the questioning because I didn't actually hear the questioning. I just kind of heard the responses. But it was interesting to hear their responses and what they had to say on the topic that they were being asked. And they weren't afraid. They weren't afraid to talk about it. And I think that's just, it's just great for the game, I think, because like you said, you look for that character in that person, and if you know that and you can trust that guy, and he's not afraid to speak up when he makes a mistake, it's just going to make a better product, and people are going to want to watch it. Because it's a better product.
No, I will tell you, I will agree with that. I think it is becoming a better product because of that. And the Hamlin thing, as bad as that was, it brought the teams together in a way, you know, we're competitive, and for 60 minutes we will go at it like, you know, 120%. But when it's over, and I've always, you know, I get it. You get into sports, and we've all done it. You get competitive, and then you get mad. But, you know, when it's all over, we're all on the same team.
That's right.
It's a game or whatever we're doing. Even in, this is way off topic, and I never go off topic.
Go off topic.
Brian's over there going, and I know we got to get to break, but even in business, there's a lot of times where someone will do something and you take it personally, and it's just business. And yeah, I'm mad at this person because they didn't do what I wanted to do, and this is what we should have done. But then at the end of the day, I'm like, you know, we're both trying to do the same thing. We're trying to do what we think is best for our business. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad person, always. But
sometimes.
Well, sometimes. But be that as it may, stay with us. Our final thoughts are coming up next.
There's something for everyone at the Kearney Enrichment Council. Spark Studios after-school programs at the Old Firehouse use STEAM-based activities to help kids learn, create, and find new hobbies and skills. The Enrichment Council supports our senior community with fun activities and necessary services at the Kearney Senior Center. All of Kearney comes out for our festivals, concerts, farmers markets, movies in the park, parades, and much more. The Kearney Enrichment Council, 106 South Jefferson Street in Kearney, 816-635-0566. Improve quality of life, find your place, build a better future in Kearney.
Welcome back to Kearney Live. It's time for our final thoughts, and I would like to give a shout out to Bridal by SHL. I don't know if you've heard of this fabulous store, but Single-Handedly Liz is now doing bridal, and she has incredible gowns in her store, both from other sources as well as some gorgeous ones that she has made personally. I got to have so much fun yesterday trying on some dresses. They treated me like a princess. They were gorgeous, gorgeous gowns. And so thank you to Liz and her staff for allowing me to have a little bit of fun and check out all of your dresses. If you are needing a formal or bridal wear, please go see Bridal by Single-Handedly Liz.
Wait a minute.
What?
What? You were trying on like bridal dresses?
No, I was trying on. I'm going to the policeman's ball this weekend, so I was trying on formals.
I was like, wait a minute.
I said formal wear. Formals. I was trying on formals. I mean, I felt like I was going to the Grammys or something. The way these dresses are just incredible.
You know, I've seen when I left the department, they didn't do the policeman's ball like they do now, and I see pictures from it every year, and it is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
So, and it's the combined one that's downtown, right?
It's for all agencies. Yeah.
That is a really, it's cool. I missed it.
You want to go?
With you?
With me and my husband, would you like to join us?
But if Rob has to work, let me know.
Okay.
I want to encourage people to get out and vote for this young girl that is in the Kearney school system. Avery Parker is her name. She's a Kearney junior high student. She's a finalist. She's in the top 10 for the S.C. Johnson Professionally Happy Hands Dispenser Art Design Contest. That's a lot to say. And she's in the top 10. You can vote up till February. That's her design, as you see it, February 28th. You can cast your vote once a day. I did vote again today for her. And you can go to happyhands.scjp.com and vote for her. And there's great prizes. And they're going to, like I said, you can vote up to February 28th, and I think they're going to announce the winner after that. So she's in the top 10.
So she didn't design the dispenser, she designed the art.
The art that's on there.
Okay.
She designed that, yes.
Okay.
And if you go on there, you'll see all 10, and you can vote for her right there, because I voted for her a little
awesome.
while back, and I tried it again today, so I think you can do it once a day. So I think that's kind of cool.
That's
you know,
super cool.
you got a local girl that worked hard, and get out there and vote for
That's
her.
right.
I'd appreciate
Good
that.
job.
Yeah, I'm amazed every time with the amount of talent that the school district here in Kearney has.
Yeah.
Because there's always, there's things like that. We talked about some of this, all the awards last week.
Right.
And the Kearney School District is always, it seems like Ray Weichel's over there, and he gives us the information. And it seems like every week he's pumping out something that's
out.
And
really
Adriana
good.
Wooster was a great
I
winner last
heard
week.
that.
Not Adriana Broughton, which she's been married for 10 years, and I called her by our name,
Gotta
and she's
redeem
Adriana
himself.
Wooster.
There you go.
I'm thinking
Well, she laughed.
I'm thinking she figured it out.
Yeah.
if she can win awards, she'll figure out who she's talking about.
Exactly.
My final thought was something that got a lot of people in trouble, and do we have it?
Oh no.
Well, so I have to explain it, and it's not going to be near as funny, and my whole thing is trashed. But if you remember, during the Super Bowl, it was the commercials, which I think
Right.
over the years have gotten progressively. They're not as funny as they used
No.
to. But they had the Tubi commercial where they came back from break.
Yes.
And then it makes it look like the screen's changing.
Like someone changed the channel.
Yes. And
yes.
at the Super Bowl thing I was at, all these people jumped up. Who's got the remote? And they're jumping around. And Brian, you said you got yelled at, I think, on that deal.
Yeah, that's right. The quote was, "What are you doing?"
So apparently all across America, a lot of people got yelled
The
at.
thought went
and,
through my head.
So the #1 business right now in the country, anybody know what that is?
#1 business?
#1 business for the last few days. It's drywall repair
Drywall
in
repair.
Philadelphia. And I'm sure there was a couple of videos that came out of people destroying TVs
my
and
goodness.
whatnot. So
I liked the John Travolta commercial.
okay.
It's like you said, it's kind of went downhill.
Yeah,
It was
it
good.
was okay. I
It was the
thought
best one.
The Tubi one, I thought by far
The Tubi one was
the
good.
best.
That one was annoying.
No, the one where
I know, and it was annoying because I thought my husband turned the channel, and he knew how much I wanted to watch that game.
that's the whole point, Stacey.
I know.
They got your attention.
I know.
It worked.
It worked.
Anyway, you can change the channel here for now. We'll be back later on Kearney Live. Remember, Kearney Live's now at 5 p.m. on Wednesdays, 10 a.m. on Saturdays on the rerun, and
11 a.m.
remember that Kearney Live is 5 p.m. on Wednesdays and 11 a.m. on Saturdays as a replay, or you can watch it on KMO-TV. There's also, I'm not supposed to say it, but I'm going to before Brian cuts me off, there's a new app coming out.
See
We're
if you can
close.
find it.
We're close. I saw the demo of it yesterday. It's really good. Thanks, guys, for being with us. Be sure to join us next time on Kearney Live. Good night.